I was hoping to finish the game in the last video, but I didn't quite get there. Still, I wanted to stick to my goal of uploading at least one video per month, so I decided to share uploaded, even though the game isn't finished yet. Honestly, the project is starting to feel more complicated than I originally expected. What began as a simple beginner-friendly game has started to spiral a bit. It doesn't even have sound yet. But I'm determined to finish it, so I can finally call myself a game developer. So, let's get back to it. In the last video, I left off working on the early version of the game's roof. I had made a 45-degree roof, but I wasn't really happy with how the model turned out, so I ended up creating a new one. For all the previous models, I used a downloaded palette, but that method doesn't allow me to add textures to the materials. So for this new model, I used a different material, which is why you can see it now has proper textures. I also created a few more roof options to give players more variety in how they build their roofs. Also, I have fixed this error where the object cannot use gravity because the item uses a mesh collider. I used mesh colliders because the shapes of the models didn't work well with Unity's simple colliders. To fix this, I built a new item drop system that uses box colliders instead. However, setting it up takes a lot of time since I have to go back and configure every game item I've already created. Then I realized that the longer you play the game, the more resources the player will need. But once the sticks and stones are collected and used, that's it, they're gone for good. To solve this, I added a system where sticks and stones will respawn after a certain amount of time. The spawn time is exaggerated for the video, but this is how it's gonna work. I also decided to make the club purchasable at the altar again, since managing the inventory became frustrating when all the slots kept getting filled with clubs. The player only needs a stick and some coins to purchase the club. Speaking of the store, here are the items available at level 1. The store has the 2-berry type, the tools plant which is the Yoma plant, the plant that grows to be a hoe, and the bucket plant, the potato sprout and the potato, the club, the stick fence and the thatch roof with 8 variations. I've come up with another idea. Initially, I planned to give the player the Yoma plant and the bucket plant right away. But instead, I'm thinking of letting the player dig plots using just a stick at the beginning. It will allow the player to start planting earlier in the game. I mean, if you got no tools and you needed to dig a plot, I think a stick will work if that is all you have. The Yoma plant and bucket plant will now be unlocked at the second level of the altar, since they're more efficient tools compared to the stick. This way, the player gets a sense of progression and feels like they're upgrading as the game goes on. So I went with that idea, and here's how it looks in-game. I also remade the plot model and added progression stages. I wanted the player to interact with the plot before they can use it, so in this version, the player needs to hit the plot with a stick and it will turn into a usable plot for planting. To support these features, I also added a crouch animation and a digging with the stick animation. Since the player crouches while pulling grass from the ground, I included a specific animation for that action as well. At first I am a little hesitant to add this to the game. 'Cause it might look sauce, but I think it turned out okay. Here is how it looked in game. I added a crouch walking animation also. To use the stick, the player needed to crouch down, which is the control key, then click the left mouse button. Then the player needed to poke the dirt with the stick a few times.
1 hour later.
A bunch of time, and here is the plot ready for planting. Here is what the grass gathering animation looks like in the game. And then there's the decision I've been debating for a while, whether or not to add. Item durability. It's a huge change, because it would mean changing one of the core systems of the game, the inventory. Specifically, the inventory slot system, which is deeply connected to most of the item objects in the game. Which means...
Oh, hell no!
Yup, I chose this for myself. But I pushed through, and the errors are finally gone. I know there are still some bugs lurking somewhere in the tangled mess of spaghetti code, waiting to strike later. But for now, I'm raising the flag of victory. I made it. I won. At least, for now. Here is what the durability looks like in game. Using the item slowly reduce its durability, then break once it reaches 0. This applies to tools. It also means that the item should only stack 1. Next up was crafting, a feature that ended up changing a lot about the game and how it's played. Initially, I just wanted the player to collect the required items from the altar, and I was hesitant to introduce crafting. But in the end, I felt it was necessary. Maybe it's because I enjoy survival games so much and crafting is the norm. So I went for it. Unlike updating the inventory system, adding crafting was surprisingly easy. It didn't even make me break a sweat. I implemented craftable stone tools and basic crafting materials. To craft an item, the player needs a crafting surface. This can be either the ground or a floor. With a crafting material selected, they simply right-click on the surface to place a crafting object. From there, they can right-click on it again to add the required materials. For example, crafting a stone axe requires either oak or pine wood, along with a stone axe head. You can craft a stone axe head using 2 stones. To start the process, right-click the oak wood. I recommend using the wood because it ensures you're crafting the correct axe type. If you use the axe head instead, it will display all possible axe variations. But using the specific wood will only show the matching axe type. I know it makes crafting a bit tedious, but I have my reasons for designing it this way. I'm just not ready to reveal them yet. Before, the player needed to use a stick to prepare a plot. But man, it was brutally slow. With crafting, just craft a hoe. It is still slow, but it is faster than using a stick. Now, back to the pitcher plant bucket, and the regular bucket. I don't remember if I showed this to you on the last video. But the player can now collect the pitcher plant and used it as an early game watering tool. When I first added this items to the game, it can only water 1 plot for every refill. But now, I wanted these items to be able to water plants multiple times, not just once. I also wanted the watering process to feel a bit tedious, for reasons I won't explain just yet. But not this tedious. To make it work, I had to modify the inventory slot system again. And you know what that means? I am gonna be eating spaghetti again.
Why are we still here?
It was brutal. I fixed one error and another 5 pops up. But with that done, the player can now water 3 crops with 1 bucket. Then I tried starting a new game and realized something important. The player needs oak or pine wood to craft an axe, but they also need an axe to cut down trees and get that wood in the first place. In other words, there's no way for the player to obtain either item.
Hi.
Okay. Failure!
Because of this, I needed to introduce early game tools that could be crafted using just sticks and stones, allowing the player to gather wood without needing wood in the first place. And so, the flimsy stone tools were born. They only require a stick instead of wood, and while they have lower durability and attack power, they are accessible and easy to make. Next up was lighting. I wanted to bring some atmosphere to the game, especially during nighttime. But I quickly realized, night wasn't actually looking dark. I thought I had set up a proper day and night cycle, but I had no idea how to make the night truly feel like night, until I stumbled across the lighting environment settings. That was it. I adjusted the settings, and suddenly, it actually got dark. I played around with it for a bit, and just that small change completely transformed the look and feel of the game. I also checked out the global volume component. Combining that with the lighting settings made a big difference. This was a major discovery for me. Since night finally felt like night, it was time to add light sources. So, I made a campfire. It took me weeks just to get it done. Then I finally tried out what Danny's always hyping up in his videos, Unity's particle system. And yes, it's as good as advertised. Flames, smoke, sparks, you can make it. To make a campfire, the player needs to first craft a tinder, which can be crafted using grass bundle. Then it can be placed on the ground, add right-click using a wood or stick. Then craft a fire starter using 2 stick and light the campfire. The player can add stone around it if they like or don't, it will still work. The player can also see the wood disappear over time as the campfire burns. With fire in the game, I also made a torch for the player to light their way at night. But then I hit another issue. I couldn't place more than 1 torch without the previous light going out. After digging into it, I learned there's a limit on the number of real-time lights Unity can handle in a scene. And that completely defeats the purpose of having portable torches. Baked lighting wasn't an option either. Most objects in my scene are removable and can be removed at any time. The terrain is the only permanent thing. I tried using volume lighting, but it doesn't cast shadows and only works through the camera. So sometimes the player would be standing in light, but if the camera wasn't, it wouldn't show anything. Then came another breakthrough, Renderer Premium subscription. For WOD Plus. It's not ideal, definitely hits performance, but it works. And at this point, I didn't have much choice. So I went with it. And with that we can lit a bunch of torches and placed it everywhere on the map. I didn't test it how many torches can be placed though. Moving on, I added new building items. Now we have a full set of pine and oak wood building pieces, each with their own materials. And because that's going to need a lot of wood, I also added tree planting to the game. To plant a sapling, the player just needed to switch to build mode, then right-click to plant. Everything that can be planted will be available on the altar, including the saplings. After adding the tree planting system, I updated the saving system because of all the new added items. And this happened. I played the game, created my own house and farm. I might have changed the saving IDs, and here it is. It's very interesting. so I added it on the video. After all that, I gave the game another test run. Of course, that meant fixing a bunch of new bugs caused I added new items. I think this is the work loop of a game developer. Oh, remember those plants that looked like they were glowing at night? I wasn't imagining it. Turns out they weren't being affected by any lighting at all. I fixed this by switching them from sprites to materials. At first, I tried using a lit material on the sprite object, but it flickered when the player moved. So instead, I built a simple plant model in Blender using 4 planes and applied the material to that. And this is how it looks now. I also added icons when the crop is ready to be harvested. The lighting really changed how the game looks. Next up is sound. After knocking, scratching, tapping, and slapping just about every object in my room, the game finally has sound. It's not the best, but the game have it. Also, I have added some doors and windows. They have certain way of using them. So there are times when the player needed to open the window on the inward or outward. To do this, the player will only needed to press the shift key, then left click the door or window. Then every time the player open that window or door, it will open on the opposite direction, then shift right click again to return to normal. I sometimes forget the things I added on the game and I wasn't able to mention it on the video. I don't think I've mentioned this before, but after harvesting a crop, the plot needs to be tilled again. Also, the player has to crouch in order to harvest. And with that, I'm wrapping up this video. I know this upload is a bit late, and I had to rush through the editing, but I'm proud of the progress I've made on the game. In fact, I'm considering it finished, at least in terms of what I originally set out to do. I just wanted to make a simple farming game with some building elements, but things kind of got out of hand. I ended up adding way more than I planned, and still have more ideas I'd love to add. But I have to learn when to stop because the series might continue forever. That said, with this video, I'm officially calling myself a game developer. A broke game developer. It feels like my graduation day in game dev. I'll definitely keep working on the game, but I won't be making videos about it every month. I'll be uploading the game to itch.io, and you'll find the link in the description. I also set up a Ko-Fi account, so if you'd like to support what I do, you can send a donation through the link in the description as well. If you playing the game, please comment on this video your thoughts and suggestions. Thanks for watching.